This nasty steering wheel is just not gonna cut it. Welcome back to The Ultimate Dad. You are back at the vehicle restoration playlist. And in this video, as promised, we're gonna take you step by step on how to restore a vintage car steering wheel. So here's the scoop. You have a vintage car that has one of these plastic composite steering wheels, and they don't make a reproduction aftermarket steering wheel for it, or an OE replacement. And your options are either A, go aftermarket with a steering wheel that doesn't match the theme of the car at all, or option B, which is to restore the one that you have. We are going option B. I'm gonna bring you in here for a closer look at this thing. Now, we did do some work to this prior to having a YouTube channel, but not much. And I'll explain to you what we did and how we're going about this. So, let me bring you in here for a closer look, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. All right, so what typically happens on these things is, and you may have seen it, I'm sure a lot of you auto guys that's been into classic cars for a long time have seen it numerous times. Happens in trucks, cars, tractors, it doesn't seem to matter. But these old steering wheels are a metal frame that run, you know, however many spokes that it has, it doesn't really matter, it's not important. But around this ring, there's a metal wire inside there that makes up the structure of the steering wheel. And then what they do from there is they mold some sort of plastic or composite material to the metal wire that makes up the grip for the steering wheel. Now, over time, this stuff gets very brittle, and just due to nature and heat expansion and contraction during cold weather, some worse and some better, and you know, depending on what part of the world you live in, what happens is these get breaks, like plastic actually snaps, breaks apart. And it causes all these gaps to where you can actually see right through the steering wheel, all the way down to that wire. So how do we fix that? Well, it's easy. And don't overthink this process. This isn't anything that you need a degree in. So what we do is, first and foremost, is we get into them cracks with some alcohol, some sort of a cleaner, because you gotta think about this for a minute. Paint does not like oil and grease. And the filler product's not gonna like it either. This thing's probably been drove for how many years? This one's from 1968. It's been drove for how many years? Probably with cracks in the steering wheel. So all your hand grime and oils and grease gets down in there. So you wanna get in there with a Q-tip, some cotton, some kind of rag, and some alcohol. Clean those areas out all the way down to that metal wire. That way, all of our bonding agent has a good surface to stick to. Now, bonding agent, what am I talking about? JB Weld. Now, don't get the clear, the cheap stuff. I can't remember the name of it exactly. It is JB Weld, but it's the tubes. One's red and one's yellow. It's basically the metal filler. It turns like a dark gray color whenever you're mixing it together. I think it has over 25 or 3,000 PSI strength of tensile strength, so that filler is more than enough. That filler is stronger than what this original composite material is made out of, for sure. But once you mix that up, and do this in small steps, don't mix up a huge bunch of JB Weld and try to do this all at once. Do this in steps, but all we're looking to do is with a Tech screwdriver, or maybe some sort of a little pick, get that JB Weld on the end of it and start at the wire and just kind of work your way out to the edge, all the way around. Is it a little time consuming? Yeah, but it beats trying to find another steering wheel. And you're gonna work that JB Weld all the way around that wire, just smashing it in, dabbing it in, until you get slightly elevated past, you know, where the composite starts. Then at that point, you're gonna go through each one of those cracks, and wherever there might be any other minor imperfections. This camera's not great at focusing when it's real close. But wherever there's other minor imperfections, you can fill that in now. JB Weld does sand. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's not impossible, especially when you're using maybe a little electronic power sander. It will sand it right back down. You wanna probably try to limit how much you get if you're using a power sander, how much you get on your original part of your steering wheel. But all we're trying to do is just kind of bring that down to where you can't really feel a difference from the OE to OE. Now I can feel the slightest little dip in there, but we're gonna take care of that. Let's talk about the products that we're gonna use on this. Are we gonna use spray paint? I got an arsenal, but we're not gonna use spray paint. I know a lot of people think that I hate spray paint. I don't hate spray paint. There's a place for it in some things, but not everything, okay? Anything that you're gonna put your hands on frequently, like a steering wheel, spray paint's not gonna last. Things that's gonna have a lot of UV sun exposure is not gonna last. Things that's gonna have a lot of harsh exposure to the elements is not gonna last. Spray paint is not gonna work well in a wheel well. It's not gonna work good in, I mean, will it work temporarily? Absolutely. If you wanna do the Craigslist rebuild, go for it. But steering wheels, your hands are on it. It gets UV, it gets hot, it gets cold. You want quality products. So we're gonna ditch the spray paints on this one and we're gonna go to a quality paint. Now, as I mentioned, the JB weld on this steering wheel where we filled the cracks has already been completed. I really wish I would have had a YouTube channel whenever we went through that process, but I just didn't. So this is where we're picking up. But the steering wheel is not perfectly smooth where we did those, those crack repairs. So we are gonna go through and use Dolphin Glaze. What this is, it is a form of body filler, with the exception of it is not the high build stuff that you would do, like if you're trying to body out a car, like your first initial run of body filler. This is not that. This is a very thin, very liquidy, consistent glaze. And basically what that does is it puts a slight build on it, but it's very easy to sand. This is where you would fine tune your hard putty that you did on your original build. Now, since this steering wheel doesn't need a lot of body work, we're just wanting to fill in a couple little small dips and divots. This is what we're gonna use for that. Mainly for two reasons. One is that it's easily to work, and two, it sets up and cures very quickly. Here's your hardener. Within 10 minutes, you're sanding on this stuff. So it speeds up the process. Now, once we get this completed, we're gonna do another cleaning job, which I'm gonna show you guys something. A lot of people use a bunch of different products, but this is what I like to use, is Prep-All. I know a lot of you body guys already know what this stuff is, but I'm trying to be as thorough as I can for the dads out there that may not know what that is. But that is a wax and grease remover. It is geared more towards the auto refinishing industry. So it does have properties that does clean a little bit better than some of the wax grease removers that you traditionally get off of a shelf. So keep that in mind. It's good stuff to have in your arsenal. But once that's clean, we're gonna hit that steering wheel with a 2K high solid primer. And we wanna atomize this paint as best as we can. I know that a lot of times we go through and we do some wet sanding, even on the primer, to smooth out some stuff. And I'm not saying that we're not gonna do some of that, but this is a steering wheel with the grips and stuff that's molded in. It's not gonna be that easy to do a lot of sanding on this steering wheel. So we're gonna try to spray this thing to where we're one and done. So we'll hit it with 2K high solid primer. And then luckily, I didn't have to buy any. I had some from a project I'd done a long time ago. This came from Napa. This is Martin Senior Paints. I just had some black. There's enough in there to do what we need to do. It doesn't need to be any kind of fancy black, just needs to be black. That's perfect. And we're gonna clear coat the ever-living snot out of this thing. This, I think, was probably around 50 bucks for this quart. I don't even think it was that much. I don't even remember. But for this quart of Ultimate Overall Clear Coat, as well as the hardener, this is a 4-to-1 mix ratio. We're not even gonna use a fraction of this can of clear coat on this thing, just because there's just not that much surface area on a steering wheel. But we will hit the steering wheel probably at least 4 times with this. Like I mentioned, your hands are gonna be all over this thing. We wanna have a high build of clear coat on it, just for the wear and the protection. Now, as I mentioned, there's a time and a place for spray paint. And here is one. Now, it's not technically a spray paint, more as a spray dye, but there's a second part to the steering wheel, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. So the center part of the steering wheel, which has the decorative emblem in it, And this particular steering wheel has a chrome horn ring that comes down through here, so you push it that way and that's what honks the horn. So this doesn't do anything but just beautify the inside of the steering wheel. What's this thing gonna look like once we have a new steering wheel with this old corroded looking cover? You can see there's stains, there's trash, there's some rough wear marks right here. Even the plastic, the clear lens that covers up the emblem is slightly cloudy, which we'll be able to buff that out. But what are we gonna do with this thing? These three products here. Now, these are made for this. This was ordered. You don't typically find these products on the shelf. You might find them in some places, but this is what we got. So, why are we not painting this thing is because this thing is vinyl wrapped. It's pliable. See how pliable that is? Paint hardens, and I know that they put flex agents in paint that causes you to, lets you paint over top of plastic bumpers that could flex some, but none of that stuff's gonna flex as much as this does. And if you paint this, it's gonna crack up and it's gonna look like a mess. So, our best option is to dye this. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean this up and wipe this thing down real good with Prep-Sol, and we probably will actually use some alcohol on this as well, just to make sure that we get like all these mitt and paw prints off of this thing. And then we'll start with the plastic and leather prep. And then an adhesion promoter. And then, of course, the last step is just a color coat, which is just a spray dye. You can wipe it down, clean it, Armor All it just like you would the rest of the dash, and you're never gonna have any problems out of it. I don't think that this is a lifetime fix. I'm not saying that in 10 years down the road you wouldn't have to redo it. I don't know, I don't have experience with that. With this process on this and a brand new paint job on this steering wheel, this will give us that brand new out of the box look that we are looking for. And we gotta get on the ball because I just found out this car is gonna be featured in a wedding on the 14th of September. So we have next to zero time to get this steering wheel done, back in the car, and the car's actually gonna come back here to this shop. We gotta do a few touch-ups on it, just pre-wedding prep. This is important. This is, we can't make the bride mad. If it's not right, we ain't gonna hear the end of it. So let's get started on this steering wheel. What gun are we gonna use to spray this with? We're gonna use the little baby version of the Big DeVille Vis. You can see it for size comparison. This is the Compact Mini. This is a 1.2 millimeter tip, and small projects call for small paint guns. But I absolutely love this little gun. It just lays down paint so smooth. So you may not know what this is. You've probably seen the aluminum mixing boards that they have at Harbor Freight, but the problem with those is you have to clean them each time. Once you're done with that particular mix, you just take this sheet off, throw it away, and you got a brand new clean one. Rip and go. Well, let's get to cleaning. You are gonna have to put some elbow grease into it. Most of it is wiping and sanding. The painting's the easy part. So make sure you're sure that you wanna get into this. Anybody drink coffee as much as I do? It's 100 degrees outside. I'm drinking coffee. I love it though. All right, we're gonna mix up some Dolphin Glaze. So we have our mixing pad, we have our Dolphin Glaze, we have our hardener, and we have our little blade thing, whatever, mixer, doer, upper thing. Anyway, we're just gonna need just a little bit, but we're gonna make sure that this is clean and clear. So this is like a pouch, so you're just gonna squeeze a little bit out. That's it. And we're just gonna put about the size of a pea. Looked into this at all, there is a proper way of mixing this. You're not just gonna sit there and start dabbing it in there. That does put air pockets inside the filler. You don't wanna do that. You wanna knead it. So we're gonna just smear it around and we're gonna smash it back down into itself. just over and over again. Basically, all I'm looking for is I'm gonna go around to each one of these rings and I'm just gonna encapsulate it. And I'm gonna try to go about a ½ inch or so past the repaired part on both sides of the repaired part. So if you can see this ring right here, I want to go about a ½ inch that way and about a ½ inch that way. That way, whenever we start sanding it, we can just kind of feather it all the way across there. So let's start applying product. All right, here we go. Like I said, this is Dolphin Glaze. You're going to want to move fairly quickly because you do only have about a few minutes. And it is not easy. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy on a radius steering wheel. We're not gonna worry too much about getting in between the grips for your finger, the louvers, not louvers, whatever you call them things. We're not gonna worry too much about getting into all that. You're not gonna see it anyway. And once we go to sanding this, it's gonna create a tremendous amount of dust. If I'd have been smart, I would have probably tried to make some sort of a radius tool for applying this, but consider the source. Now, I will definitely admit when something isn't working right, and trying to use that little spatula to put this on this radius steering wheel was just not happening. And believe it or not, I'm finding it easier to install this stuff with my fingers. It's going on a lot smoother than what I ever thought that it would. And I'll show you my stand for the steering wheel here in just a second. Steering wheels are oddly shaped when you're trying to do this kind of work to it. So basically what I ended up doing was I found some pieces of 4x4s in my crawl space and kind of just stuck those two together with a 2x4 running right up through the middle of it. And the whole idea was just to support this thing. Now I can tighten this thing down more to where the steering wheel doesn't rotate on me at all, but I actually don't mind it right now. But trying to do work on a steering wheel like this, a lot of the problems that you run into if you try to hang this from like you know, just from the ceiling. Once you go to spraying it or doing anything, just the wind from the gun starts making this thing rotate and spin and around and everything like that. And it's basically almost comes uncontrollable, then your end job just doesn't look very good. So yeah, latex gloves, just kind of smear it on. What a world of difference. It's kind of goober gobbered over here where I was trying to use the spatula, which I mean, we're gonna sand all that off anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But this over here where you just kind of brushed it on with your finger, man, that just was the ticket, so. All right, it's been probably around 10 minutes. Like I said, this Dolphin Glaze sets up extremely fast. I don't know if you see how globbery and all that is. That is definitely not a body guy's finest moment when you see some filler like that. But then let's pan over here to where I installed it with my finger. That is just the berries right there. We're gonna get to sanding, smooth all this down. All of these were extremely close to being where they needed to be, so I don't really suspect that we're gonna have to add another layer of this stuff. So we're just gonna get after it. I had to change the threads. There was no way in this world I was gonna be caught by my wife out here sanding with good clothes on. So you dads know what I'm talking about. But she's not wrong. She's not wrong. She does the laundry and keeps everything up, and it's not gonna go unnoticed. She's gonna smell it, she'll know. Trust me, she knows. Just one of those little sponge sanding blocks. So we're gonna knock this down and go from there, see what we got. body filler is smoothed down to a point where we're gonna switch to a finer grit sandpaper just to really dial this thing in. You kind of catch the drift where we're going with it. We're gonna go ahead and take a piece of this Scotch-Brite and we're just gonna smooth this down. All we're looking for now is just to feather everything in. So I'm gonna use the Scotch-Brite and I'm gonna get after it. For a final cleaning, once again, we're gonna go back to prep all. So now we'll get this thing wiped up. Time to get her mask done. Now one thing I wanna mention is when you get into areas where it's difficult to tape, or you don't have an area that's real susceptible for the tape to adhering and you're afraid it's gonna blow off, aluminum foil is a great option. All right, we're back and we are getting ready to mix up our primer. I took the liberty of wiping this thing down one more time with Prep-All, and the rag's clean. I wipe and wipe and wipe and nothing's left on the rag, so we know we're clean. So we're gonna mix this paint up and we're gonna get to shooting. But I'm gonna show you on the mixing cups of how to do this. A lot of people know how to do this. Not everybody may know, but all these little numbers on these mixing bins, those numbers mean something, so I'm gonna show you. Now, if you don't know, don't feel bad about it. This is about learning. Nobody's here to critique, but this primer is calling for 4 to 1. So we're talking 4 parts of the primer and 1 part of the hardener. Since we know, we've established we have our 4 to 1 ratio, our cups, hopefully it shows good. It starts with a 1 to 1, then it goes to the 2 to 1, then it goes to the 3 to 1, and then bam, goes to the 4 to 1. Now it also has a 4-2 to 1. That's also for different applications. And when you see the 4 to 1, that's what we're looking at on this particular mix. And then it gives you another part there at the very end. And there's certain types of additives and solvents that make up that 15%, but we're not gonna get into that. We're not using any of that, but we're just gonna use the 4 to 1 here. Now, I already took the liberty of mixing the primer. But when we want our paint strainer, let's see, get you back in here to the 4 to 1 mix. We're gonna put our paint strainer right down in there. And then we're just gonna fill, okay, so we're doing a steering wheel. We need very little paint. We need to make the absolute minimum. So we're gonna bring our primer level right up here to the very first one on the 4 column.
What's up, guys?
For those out there in YouTube land, Asher just walked in. He'd been at a birthday party all day.
It was fun.
They had a good time. They had a water slide, had a pool going, pizza, every kid's dream. Now we are going after our hardener, and this is to 1 part. Actually went just a little bit over on the paint. So now we're gonna go to that one, come down the column, and we're gonna go to the next one. But since I went a little over on the primer, we're gonna go a little bit over on the hardener. Like I said, I mixed too much, but sometimes it happens. All right, we're just gonna mix this up. All right, now that we got our primer mixed up, we are gonna go ahead and transfer that into our DeVilbiss D cups. So we're gonna filter, we filtered the paint into the mixing cup, and we're also gonna filter the paint from the mixing cup into our D cup. And now you can paint horizontally, laterally, any which way, upside downy, and you don't ever have to worry about any of your paint leaking. To prime these bags, you just hold the gun upright and you're gonna see that bag suck down. Keep going. Now you got a steady stream of paint.
Now, if you can hear me, unfortunately, I lost one of the filters to my respirator. So I'm gonna run with these. Luckily, again, we're not spraying much paint. I have good ventilation in here. So we're just gonna go ahead and go after it.
We're gonna give that about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of set up a little bit, and then we're gonna come hit it again. Since this is a primer, we're gonna give this probably a day or two to fully cure, and then we're gonna sand, you know, wherever the rough spots are, and then clean it up one more time, and we're gonna go hit it with the base coat and clear coat. So I will resume the video here in a couple days. All right, it is Tuesday. We primered this on Sunday, so we gave it 2 days to kind of get, you know, fully cured. We're gonna go over with some sandpaper, probably 220 grit, just to take out some of the light scratches that are in this thing. And then we're gonna clean it up one more time, and we're gonna get ready to squirt some black paint. To keep this video short, I went ahead and got the color sprayed on this thing. And let me tell you something, look at that. This is the color that says no clear coat. We're getting ready to tackle that here shortly. But I'm telling you that that is a steering wheel that anybody would be proud to have on their classic vintage car. All right, and here we are finished with coat number 2. And you can see she's starting to come around now. We're gonna sauce it up with probably about 2 more coats. We're gonna go full wet on the next ones, and we're just gonna send it. Put in the comments, what do you think? I think once you see this thing complete, it's gonna be definitely a game changer for the interior of this car. All right, well there she is with about 5 coats of clear. Now we laid the last 3 on pretty heavy. Probably kind of favored the backside of the steering wheel where your fingers are naturally going to be riding the most in between the grips, but it just came out looking like it's dripping wet. And I gotta tell you, this is going to make one beautiful steering wheel to go back into that car. So we're going to hang it up for tonight and tomorrow. So we're gonna hang it up for tonight, and tomorrow we're gonna get into the steering wheel pad That's the vinyl piece that we're gonna clean and we're gonna dye black. And then once we get that finished, we're gonna be able to put this whole thing together and see what she looks like as a whole. All right, we are wrapping up this steering wheel project, but last thing that we gotta do is the center of the steering wheel. This is the steering wheel pad, just above the horn button. If you can see in here, basically all I'm doing right now is we're prepping this thing with plastic and leather prep, which is a cleaner, almost a degreaser. But you can see in this particular steering wheel, there's a lot of deep grooves and ridges that make up this cover here. And so I did take a nylon brush with the use of the prep cleaner and just got in there and kind of scrubbed just to make sure we get any debris and garbage out that's stuck in there. And did use a little bit of compressed air just to blow out those little nooks and crannies. So I'm gonna move forward with going ahead and wiping this thing down the rest of the way with the prep. And we're gonna get on to the adhesion promoter. All right, we got this thing cleaned up, and now is the time we're gonna go to adhesion promoter. I am gonna switch to latex gloves. As many of the body guys already know, this is for the people learning. The prep work is always key on any of these projects, so cleanliness is number one. So I'm gonna wear latex gloves because I wanna keep the oily paw prints off this thing so I can make sure that I have the best bonding possible. We are now moving on to our adhesion promoter, and always read the directions. This is a shake well for 1 minute. We're gonna do one light coat on this, and then within 5 minutes, we're gonna do one full wet coat. After that full wet coat, you don't wanna wait no more than 30 minutes to apply your color coat. All right, shorten the video. I went ahead and stopped the camera, spun it around and done the other side. But we are gonna wait 5 minutes, and then this thing's gonna get a full wet coat. Well, it's been about 5 minutes, so full wet coat time, which means let's give it the beans. It's been about 15 minutes, and now we're going to apply the color coat. All right, so even after 15 minutes of curing, the adhesion promoter is still going to have a sheen to it. That's completely normal. It's a slight tack that forms on this to really let the color adhere. So we're going to do as many light coats as we need until we get uniform color, and then that's where we're going to stop. Going to add our third and final coat. This will be the last coat to achieve the coverage that we're looking for. And then last shot is going to be of this whole steering wheel assembled as a whole. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited. But also remember on this stuff, always go on light coats. You don't want to just build. Just go enough to where you're covering what you want to cover. All right, where this is a dye, this isn't paint. We're finally ready to reveal what a little bit of work and time and elbow grease can produce for us on this restored steering wheel. Y'all look at just how beautiful this steering wheel came out. I'll even get you down for the close-ups. I mean, the center steering wheel pad just came out phenomenal. The quality of the steering wheel, I mean, you don't even want to touch it. This thing is just so nice. The backside of it is nice as well. Now this was a replacement chrome horn ring, so that was a nice accent. Was really happy I was able to get that, a replacement one of those. But I'm telling you, this is just a steering wheel that anybody would be proud to have in their classic car. And this can be done on any composite plastic-based steering wheels. I hope you enjoyed this video. This will wrap it up. We tried to keep this at a decent amount of time, not a real long video, but I wanted to be as thorough as I could. Just absolutely thrilled at the condition of this steering wheel. This is gonna make my father proud in his 68 Galaxie, and this will complete getting this unit wrapped up for that wedding. Just remember to like and subscribe. We got a lot more videos and how-tos coming along, including some home DIYs that'll be starting here shortly.